Part 5, Adoption Unfiltered. I'm trying my best to get through the story because I know it's taking forever, but just bear with me. I promise you it's worth it. So I am adopted officially, and just to kind of give you some context of what life now was looking like, Lucy, my adopted mother, like I mentioned, she's loud. She can be not a little, but she's very overwhelming. And her love was very much conditional love. When you obeyed her, when she can control your life, she loved you. When she couldn't control your life or you disobeyed her, then you saw a different side of her. Ricardo, adoptive father, was different. He, like I mentioned, he didn't speak. He had the same routine that he, to this day, I'm sure still does. But he would come home, would say hi, and, get undressed, out of his work clothes, sit at the dinner table, did not speak. It wasn't anything like, hi, how are you? There was no love, there was no hugs, there was no kisses. How was your day? Tell me about school. What's going on? I was solely just the financial provider. And Lucy did everything else. She took care of us. She took us to school, worked with us with our homework, after school activities. She raised us. Like always pretty much felt like Ricardo never wanted us there. Never wanted us there. It was kind of like a decision that Lucy just made and basically told Ricardo, this is what it is. Since we can't have any biological kids of our own because they tried and they couldn't, we're going to adopt. And I feel like when she got the opportunity to adopt us, she, took it, and that was that. And, that was hard because you definitely felt the tension in that home growing up, like that he wanted nothing to do with us. He micromanaged, and it was like walking on eggshells around him. You couldn't do anything right. You close the fridge too hard. You close the cabinets too hard. You're touching the walls. We lived in a split level that was older, so if he was home, he was always in the family room, which was like directly underneath my bedroom. And my floor had wood floor, so if I would drop something, I would get screamed at. If I walked too hard, if I moved my furniture, there was literally no winning with him. And then we had chores, like normal chores, but when we came home from school on Friday, homework had to be done, chores had to be done. My sister and I, by 3rd grade, I was already ironing clothes, washing my clothes, packing Ricardo's lunch. I was getting on my hands and knees and wiping the floors because she would not let us use a mop. We had to vacuum, dust the bathrooms, tub and everything. We would have to get in the tub and clean it. So we were very great cleaners, I will say that. And I quickly learned that if you stayed on Lucy's good side, life could be good. And I also quickly learned that when you weren't on Lucy's good side, life would get very hard because if it wasn't like, oh, if mom is upset with you, at least we still have dad. No, dad was like not around. And it was hard too because my sister and I, we didn't have a close relationship. I almost felt like she, definitely didn't want me there. One second. I feel like Lucy preyed on my vulnerability. She quickly noticed that my birth mother, Maria, didn't really care for me. She could see that. And my sister's loyalty and love to our birth mom was something out of this world, even if she wasn't the best mother. My sister was loyal to her, and I didn't understand it then. I understand it now, and I actually think it's a beautiful thing about my sister that, even to the day my birth mother passed away, my sister stayed true to her, that was her mother and her only mother. I unfortunately didn't feel the same way because I wasn't raised by my birth mom, so I didn't have that relationship with her. So when Lucy was giving me love and attention, I would soak it in because I already lost all the family I knew before. And, I was taking what I could get. Obviously didn't receive anything from Ricardo. So, I started to fall in love with Lucy and be like, okay, like, this is my new mom. And we would spend time together. She would tell me, please don't ever leave me. And I would look at her like, why would I ever leave you? Like, I'm thinking in my head, like, I got nothing else. But I don't know if I already mentioned this, but, I also quickly learned the other side of Lucy, that if you went against her wishes or what she wanted for your life, you saw, like, almost like this devil in her come out. And it was scary. She was harsh. And she would make me feel unloved really quick by just the verbal abuse and the things that she would say to me. Like, I was just disposable. And because up till this time point in my life, I've lived in so many different homes and I've called so many different people mommy, papi, that now I'm like, oh my gosh, if I continue to be disobedient or not show appreciation, I'm going to get shipped off again. So that was always like a fear in the back of my head that if I continued to upset Lucy, I would have to find another home. And as a child, like, that was a lot to carry. And, there was times that we go for the weekend to go stay with my birth mom, my sister and I. But for me, that wasn't enjoyable just because my birth mom wasn't very kind to me. And at this time, my sister wasn't either. So I would tell Lucy, like, I don't want to go see Maria anymore. Like, I just stay here. And she loved it. I've learned now that if I wanted nothing to do with her, Maria, Lucy just like thrived on that, and she loved it more. And when she would see my sister not feel the same way, it was like she would punish her and treat her very poor, and then she would treat me better. And she would always say, well, your birth mom loves you and favors you, so I'm going to favor her. And growing up, I'd be like, okay, cool. But looking back at it, that was terrible. And what my sister and I needed was like unconditional love. We needed therapy. We needed safe. Like, we came from so much trauma that then we just went into a world where, yes, we are adopted, and we're adopted by a white middle class family. So like, oh, the girls are going to be good. They're going to live a much better life than what anyone else could have provided. But it's like, yeah, on paper it looked great, but that saying, what goes on behind closed doors, that's the epitome of what I went through. What goes on behind closed doors, like, no one would ever imagine. And yes, because they didn't physically abuse me, or they didn't sexually SA me or my sister, it doesn't take away the other verbal and psychological abuse that, like, basically you should be thankful for the life that you have and that we are providing. Because if you were still living your previous life, you would probably be in the streets, you would probably be pregnant at a very young age, you wouldn't have the luxuries that we are providing for you. So basically, remember that, note that, and stay obedient, stay in line, was the theme of what I went through. And I made some good close friends that, they don't even know it to this day, but they were like my saving grace. There was 3 girls in particular that I just loved going to their house. And as much as Lucy would allow me to, I basically lived at my friend's house just because it was safe. And it was like my getaway from the hell that I lived in, that they didn't even know it. And that really helped me through those years of just being able to have that break.